is up? We are back. Welcome back to another video. Now, yesterday I posted a reel showing my Volvo electric power steering on the Z. Yo, it's working. Electric power steering. Welcome to the future. That's amazing. A lot of people DM'd me and commented questions, asked if I had a write-up for it. So I figured I'd just go ahead and make a dedicated video answering all of those questions and giving you an idea for what you should do for your setup. So obviously the Z is slightly taken apart right now. We are currently working on tucking all of the wiring and hoses in the engine bay, and I've got a whole series on that, so if you haven't seen it, go check that out. But I used to have a lot of belt slipping and squealing and getting out of alignment issues, and in hindsight that was probably largely to do with the crank pulley, which I have this sick new crank pulley which got rid of a lot of those issues. But I used to have a power steering pump, mechanical belt driven, mounted right here, and it actually used this bracket which was made for doing power steering on the LS, but something was a little different about it and we had to make it thinner. But then it was at the point where it gotten so thin that the power steering pump would sort of bend forward and then get out of alignment with the belt. So I was like, I need to get rid of the mechanical power steering and go electric. And I'd seen quite a few people do this Volvo electric power steering swap. So what all does that entail? So the cars that have this electric power steering pump are the Volvo S40, V50, C30, and C70. And I think I got mine off of a Volvo S40, and it was mounted somewhere in the passenger side of the front bumper. So I went to LKQ, pick your part, and I spent maybe $30, $40. Dang, I got holes in my shorts. Don't look. That kind of ruins this whole shot, doesn't it? So I got it for $30 or $40 from LKQ, and I actually hooked it up and I was running it for a while. So here's the thing, power steering pumps are variable speed. So you're gonna have different versions of how this works with different cars, different power steering pumps, but the gist of it is when you're at a lower speed, power steering pump needs to move faster, and when you're at a higher speed, it needs to move slower. And here's why. At lower speeds, more turning is happening, so you need more power steering fluid to flow. At higher speeds, you're making more subtle steering movements, so you don't need as much power steering fluid to move around. So I've been driving around for a while without proper speed adjustment. It's just been at the lowest speed. So when I'm moving in a parking lot and I gotta turn the steering wheel a bunch, I have to go really slow, otherwise it sort of almost locks up because it doesn't have enough power steering fluid flowing. Power steering fluid flow. So obviously I've made a new bracket for this power steering pump and it's being mounted at a new location. So I don't have any of it hooked up right now. So I'm actually gonna go through and hook up this line so you can see how I'm running it, how it's hooked up. And then I'm gonna show you a really cool device that I found, which is the perfect complement to the Volvo power steering pump for any vehicle. Okay, so before I had a regular LS power steering pump, and the lines that I had connecting from the 300ZX factory power steering rack to the LS power steering pump, the threads are the same. So this should fit right into the Volvo, and it does. And then this should fit right into the power steering rack. Let me see if I can get this to where you can see it. So you ought to be able to see this line coming out of here. I think I'm gonna pass it through this hole, and then it's gotta go back to that connection right there. I'm gonna pass this through here. And I'm gonna go ahead and thread this in. Is that bigger than a 17? No way. Wow, that's like a 19. Freaking 19, dude. We're getting dirty today. We are getting dirty today. It's so stiff, crazy. Okay, so I didn't exactly show it, but I did get the line connected on this side. All right, now I've got this end is just going to go right here, and this connects directly to the power steering rack. Manual wrenches, man. It's the problem with attaching lines. You have to use a manual wrench. You can't fit a socket over it. Okay, I think that line is nice and tight now. I feel like it coming out this way is unnecessary. Okay, I think that is nice and tight. Now I just have to take this return line and connect it. And we can cut this shorter because it's gonna go pretty much like this. It'll be probably up here. Okay, so we got this much extra hose. If any of you need this hose, I got you. All right, I need a little hose clamp. All right. So now, here's what you need to know about your connections for this power steering pump. So you've got two connectors on the power steering pump here, and two of them are big power wires. Obviously, those are going to go pretty much directly to the battery. You want to have some type of fusible link between that there. But then you have this smaller connector which has 3 wires inside of it, and one of them, which I had already been using, is the switched 12 volt. So whenever the car comes on, this 12 volt signal will tell the power steering pump to come on and start drawing power from the battery. So, but then you've got these other 2 little wires which I haven't used before, but these communicate with the computer on the Volvo so that the power steering pump can know what speed it needs to be pumping. Wow. So now, there's so many cars. So now we've got all the lines connected, and you can honestly run this just like this, and it's fine. On the road, most of the time it's fine. It's just kind of like if you're backing into a parking spot and you've got to turn the steering wheel like this, you're not going to be able to do it like this. You're going to be able to do it sort of like this, because you're sort of bumping into a wall of there not being enough pressure in the power steering lines. So how do you fix that? Because this is just gonna operate at low RPM when there's no computer signal. How do you fix that? We can hook up these 12 volts to the battery. We can hook up this 12 volts to a switched connection for when the car comes on. But what do we hook this up to? How are we going to communicate with this and tell it RPM? So that is where this beautiful device comes in. So I was looking for a 3D model of the power steering pump in order to design this bracket around, and I stumbled across this device. Now this device, so as is, it comes with this connector, which is going to be a direct replacement for this connector. So I can just take this and connect right onto here. And now you've got this computer which talks to, this is a little computer which talks to the power steering pump and tells it what RPM to be at. Now, there's 2 versions of this device, and I discovered the other version first, and it basically has a little dial that you can turn. It's a knob, and you can turn it up and it'll make the RPMs higher, turn it down, make the RPMs lower. So when you're about to park in a parking lot, or if you're at lower speed, you can turn that dial up, or if you're just cruising on the highway, you could turn it down. But I mean, you gotta manually adjust that. But he made a new version of the device which has this GPS. So now this little GPS module communicates with this module, which is talking to the power steering pump. And the GPS tells this module what your speed is. And if you're at a higher speed, it tells the power steering pump to be at a lower RPM. But if you're at a lower speed, like in a parking lot, it will detect that with the GPS and tell the computer, and the computer tells the power steering pump to be at a higher RPM so you can more easily turn your steering wheel all the way around. And then you've got a 12 volt connection to both power the device and to signal when to turn on the power steering pump. And you pretty much hook these up to a fusible link going to the battery. And then I'm probably gonna basically run this up through in the fender here, and then have the main module probably just kind of stuffed in here. but the GPS needs signal to the sky, so you can't be blocking this with metal. I can't mount this inside of the fender. So I'm gonna mount the GPS up here inside the windshield wiper cowl, and it'll be able to easily get GPS reception through the plastic. No metal interference. What a cool device. $98 for this device, $30, $40 for the power steering pump. And you put those together and now you've got a fully electric, you don't have to deal with the belts or mounting of a mechanical power steering pump on the front of your engine. You're saving space, it looks better. I mean, the electric is awesome. It works great. I have not yet tested this device. I will test it when I put the car back together, and I may make a little reel on that, but that's pretty much gonna do it for this video. I hope that this helped you understand my system and give you some ideas for what you could do for your system. Also need to add power steering fluid to this. Thanks for watching.